Ta-da. Well, welcome to Ask Jim Friday and the Going Pro Experts program. Robin and I have been sitting here chatting about our mutual friend Waldo Waldman. Rob Waldo Waldman, wingman, never fly solo. And this is the challenge coin that he gives out. Yesterday, he spoke to a few hundred people who are hospital administrators, and he had one of these for each of them with their company logo on the backside.
Nice.
Which I think is a nice touch. Kevin Davis has these. His is like a poker chip from a casino, but it's got his message on it. And at the bottom of it, it says, "To it." He said he took off on one of Zig Ziglar's old lines. You know, if those of you have been saying, "Yeah, I'm going to do that when I get around to it," well, here's a round to it.
To it.
There you go. So get after.
I love that.
Yeah, I think that's pretty clever. I did a program, Robin, for Eric Swanson, Mr. Awesome.
Yep.
And this was just yesterday afternoon, or no, the day before that. Anyway, had about 21 people in the audience, and it was a book club where everybody had been assigned the duty of reading the Acorn Principle. And so when I was speaking, I was taking all of the various elements of the Acorn Principle and sticking them on my shirt and talking about each one. And what if people wore badges like that helped us read people more accurately? And
nice.
Looks like I picked up one or two new enrollees for our La Jolla event. Hello, Lisa.
Oh, cool.
Ree, welcome aboard.
Hi, Lisa.
Wait, I'm so sorry. I am so sorry. I just have my iPad and I can't come on camera today. I am in the midst of babysitting a 2-year-old and trying to type up $200,000 in gift business. So I apologize and just thought, hey, I know I'm just trying to do too many things at one time, and trying to find the unmute while that, but hey, it's all good. And I have a dog sitting on top of me. So
cool. Well,
that can maybe be more entertaining than watching us.
Yeah.
Turn that baby on.
We'll let you be a fly on the wall today, and don't worry about interacting. If you've got something, you can always pop in. But I'm going to do a little walk down memory lane today to put some ideas in context. Okay.
Okay.
First, I want to throw it open to the two of you. Is there anything in particular that you need help with that we collectively can help you with?
I think I'm on path okay right now. I'm good.
All right.
And for me, I am good right now because I am. It's kind of ebbs and flows, and my gift business is pulling at me. And I had not one but 2 disappointments in my training business, not really open to discuss, but both of them were situations where I brought Tom Ziegler in. We laid out the proposals, and one said, because it was supposed to be in March, one said he'll get back to us middle of May. So there went that one. And the other one said he'll get back to us in a year. So I'm okay in my training business right now. I got a lot of moving parts that are, I guess marinating would be the best choice of words that I could. So all is good. Thank you for asking.
Good. You're welcome. By the way, one of the participants in Going Pro is Ken Rimson. And this is Ken. And his book is called Get Wallet Wise. And I just received from him the other day the Get Wallet Wise Credit Card Bible, which is a workbook that he's got. And he's also got a big handbook. And this one, his sticker says, "Let me know what you think." It's the Get Wallet Wise workbook. And you can see it's got lots and lots of pages in it. So that's something I'm happy to explore with Ken. And I encourage you to talk with him about it. Because his superpower is helping people realize how to make smarter day-to-day money decisions. Though he works for Fidelity and does consulting and can design a whole retirement program for you, he can also show you where to find a few $1,000s every quarter in money you're just wasting. And I don't mean wasting in that you wouldn't spend it. It's just that if you spend it differently, you'd get the same result and save a whole ton of money. So he's super smart about that. So shout out to Ken Remsen on watching the replay here. Now, rewind. We're going back in time. We're getting in the time machine and going back to the year 1970. Just a second. Got to double check this. 1977. Okay.
I was in high school.
Yes. Well, I was 30 years old at the time. No, I was 31 already by the time this rolled around. So it's 1970. Oh, no, excuse me. I just saw the date. January of 1978 is when this magazine came out. But
I was a senior in
November of
college.
77, Tulsa, Oklahoma. This was shortly after the oil crisis, where everybody was pushing their cars to the gas stations to get just 1 or 2 gallons because it was all being rationed. Well, W. Clement Stone, who was partner with Napoleon Hill, the author of Think and Grow Rich, and a number of other people like Cavett Robert, founder of the National Speakers Association, brand new speaker Zig Ziglar, who was getting popular at the time. They all collaborated in a big event, series of events nationwide called the Positive Thinking Rallies. And they had 2 guys, Sam Cooper and John Handick, who were the ones putting it all together and taking it from city to city. And they would hold these monstrous rallies. I don't know if you can see that photo, but it's a photo of a great big arena with
Yeah.
speakers on the stage and spotlights and an audience there.
Yeah.
Okay. And that is a photo from the Positive Thinking Rally during the speech of one of the main headliners, Ira Hayes. Now, notice on the stage, there are a whole bunch of like posters. See them
Yep.
right there?
Yep.
This was before audio visuals had taken a quantum leap. I mean, this was when you still, if you had slides, you put them in a carousel tray and carried them with you, right? And if you wanted to show slides, they weren't even doing rear screen. You
Yeah.
would put it on a big stand out in the audience and project it onto a screen and have to kill the house lights and all that. Well, Ira realized he didn't have the technical capacity to show his images. So he had them created on big old flip charts that were the size of a sandwich board that used to be worn back in the days by the guy that was advertising Joe's Diner, you know, or the end is near, whatever it happened to be. And so Ira had all these turned into flip charts that were freestanding. You could set them on the stage, and that was his whole speech. And so he would walk over to one of them and flip one of those pages and reveal the image and then tell the stories related to it. Well,
That's
I
great.
went to the Positive Thinking Rally. By the way, Ira Hayes, I just mentioned, I'll show you his picture just a second. That's Ira.
Yep.
He was the former ambassador of enthusiasm, vice president of National Cash Register, and just a phenomenal speaker, later became president of the National Speakers Association. So all these rallies are going on, and one of them's in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And at the time I lived there, I was working for the USJCs. And David Cooper, younger brother of Sam Cooper, who was putting these things on, David Cooper had met me before in Arkansas, and he came around to the USJC's national headquarters where I was working. And they said, Jim Cathcart's the one you want to see. Out of the 100 employees, I was sort of the guy that you'd go to about motivation. So David comes up and he says, hey, I remember you, you know, and so we talked. And he said, look, I'm selling tickets to this big monster rally, and we're bringing in Art Linkletter and Earl Nightingale. And of course, I was sold at the Earl word. And Cavett Robert and Zig Ziglar, a new guy, and Paul Harvey and Dr. Robert Schuller of the Crystal Cathedral, and they're all going to be on stage. And I said, well, wow, how much are they? You know, and he told me whatever the price of the tickets was. And I had a bunch of Earl Nightingale products that I hadn't sold from back in Arkansas. And I said, I will trade you my remaining Nightingale inventory for tickets. And he said, done. So I got a batch of tickets and I went around to my colleagues and I said, hey guys, free tickets to this big rally. So we go to the rally and it's like 8 hours of motivational speakers back to back to back to back to back. It's like going to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and seeing it performer after performer. Or here in Austin the other day, the Country Music Television Awards, CMT. Yeah. So I go there and I'm in the audience with 11,700 other people. And Don Hudson, my buddy from Memphis, who I had known through the American Society for Training and Development. Don Hudson, who looked like this at the time.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah.
Dark hair and all that. Don was the MC for this event. And I went over to the side of the stage, got his attention. He said, JC, come here. And so I walked up and he said, come backstage. So we go to the green room. He said, I want you to meet Earl Nightingale.
Wow.
Wow. Well, you know, he didn't know how much of a hero Earl was to me at the time. But anyway, I walked back to the green room. Earl's in a makeup chair with Kleenex all around his collar, you know, to keep from getting makeup on his shirt. And I met him and chatted with him briefly. And then Don, I've told you guys this story before, but Don and I walked out behind the stage and looked at the 11,000 people. And he said, JC, he said, we're next. And I said, what do you mean? He said, all these speakers are old. He said, we're next. And he was absolutely right. Yeah. Of course, I had no way of knowing it at the time, but he did. And all the speakers were, you know, 55, 65, some of them 75 years old. Well, today I'm 77 years old and still going strong. So he's right. We're next. And there's a new batch right behind me. And so this was the magazine they had. And it shows the lineup: Paul Harvey, Cabot Robert, Art Linkletter, Earl Nightingale, Hudson, Schuller, Norman Vincent Peale, Ira Hayes. And I sat there that day and had my life transformed. I mean, I was never the same after that day. And between speakers, we would go out in the hallway and they had tables set up selling audio cassette programs from all these people. And I of course, was out there lined up. Here's Earl Nightingale's ad in the magazine to get his audio cassettes. Special trial offer, $10, $10. Wow. And take it for 15 days. And if you want to keep it, send the balance of $39.95.
Wow. Wow.
Holy smokes. And you look at all of these people and all these things in here. There's Don Hudson. He's got an article in there. And there's Ira Hayes and all these different cassette programs. And I mean, they're not even featuring Zig yet. You know, at this point, Zig is one of the occasional MCs and sometimes gives a keynote. As a result of that, I joined the National Speakers Association. I had joined it just earlier through Don Hudson, but this told me who my tribe was. So I get involved in the business, and a year later in September, here's the next edition of Positive Living magazine. Dottie Walters on the cover. Dottie was a female sales trainer and the only one in the nation at the time. And that was a big, go ahead.
And speaking booking agent.
Yeah, and a speaking booking agent, yep. And by this time, Zig was one of the headliners. And let's see if there's anybody else. Ty Boyd, Dottie Walters, they were both headliners. And I want you to see a couple of things in here. inside the magazine, they had this article on page 9. Jim Cathcart on become the person who would achieve your goals, and the goals will be your natural byproduct.
That's awesome.
That was, to me, one of the biggest thrills in the world. I mean, I had, as far as I was concerned, I had hit the top of the top of the top. And I was so stunned and thrilled to be able to do that. And it says, book these people at your next meeting. And it's got an article in there about me and my Think Like a Pro audio cassettes. Think Like a Pro. I only had 2 products of my own. How to Think Like a Professional, Jim Cathcart, on audio cassette, and 3 Essentials for a Happy Family, likewise me on audio cassette. That's what I had when I met Tony Alessandra out in California in 1979. And we decided to collaborate. And of course, we're still going strong as best friends and collaborators today. So fast forward, I got into the business, I got active, I got around all the players and shakers and movers and learned at their feet. And I started practicing everything they taught me, and it started paying off. And I got to where I was booked all the time. I left the JCs. I got a big contract with Tulsa Agency of Mass Mutual. My mentor and boss was Joe Willard, general agent. And Joe, by the way, will be in La Jolla at the summit, which is thrilling. And Joe is CPE recipient #1. Now notice I spoke back then on how to think like a professional. This was in the 1970s. Here we are in 2024, and what I'm teaching is become the kind of person who would achieve your goals, and the goals will come along. And I'm focused on professionalism. And I just created a year ago certified professional expert designation, and I'm designating people, bestowing the CPE on them. And I've isolated the skill set of professionalism and the 5 qualifiers that identify a pro. And it's still going 47 years after I got involved in speaking in the first place. So I want you to take this, thank you, Robin, take this and reflect on what you're speaking on, working with, and teaching now. And what is the thread, the golden thread, like professionalism is for me, that goes all the way back to the beginning of you getting excited about this career path. So years later, 1987, I was really active and doing well. And there were 3 outfits that comprised the meetings industry. The American Society of Association Executives, ASAE, headquartered in Washington, D.C. And that's every association imaginable. The Medical Association, the Bar Association, the Association of Wiping Cloth Manufacturers, the Truckers Association, everything that's not a union, an association, that's its home base. So I got active in ASAE. I went to their conventions as a stranger. I just paid and went there. Went through the expo and met all the people, shook hands and got business cards and followed up. Ended up getting some speech bookings, also doing some collaboration. And some of them said, hey, would you contribute to our library of material? And so I was able to put a recording or an article or a book or something into their system, and they would be marketing me when I was asleep. And then I started volunteering for various things. And so the people at ASAE said, you're a good guy. And they ultimately hired me to create a video training program that they sold to all of their members, thousands and tens of thousands of members nationwide. And it was on member service. How do you retain, how do you create loyal members? And so I did a couple of videos and they published it under their own label. So I got another outfit marketing me when I'm asleep. Swiss Money, sales while I sleep soundly, SWISS. And the other two outfits were MPI, Meeting Professionals International, which back then was called Meeting Planners International, and ASTD, American Society for Training and Development, now called ATD, Association for Talent and Development. ASTD had local chapters all around the country. There was one in Tulsa. I joined in 1974. Member number 031031. And I got active in the chapter, and one of our speakers was Don Hudson. And that's how I met him, because I was the guy assigned to take care of Don's logistics while he was there presenting, and we became good friends. And 3 days ago, I was sitting on the couch with Paula watching TV, and Hudson called. He said, "Hey, JC, we're driving around Memphis. That's talking, telling stories, and I was thinking about you. I want you to meet my friend." And he introduced me to his friend on speakerphone. So, you know, Don and I are still connected as brothers even to today. Wonderful. So ASTD, I went to their meetings and I got involved in their national organization by going to the regional events and the national event once in a while. I went to Chicago and I met Joel Weldon. He was one of the presenters on the program, and the event was in downtown Chicago at the Conrad Hilton, big famous hotel. And Joel spoke next door at the Blackstone Hotel in a breakout session that I will never forget. One of the funniest and yet most educational I had ever seen in my life. There was a story he was telling where he set up the story early and then left it, and then came back to it a couple of times during his talk, and then had the big reveal at the end. And the story was basically, I'll give you just the structure and the punchline. So he's talking about one of the problems that he has traveling so much, speaking so often, is it's hard to find shirts, dress shirts, that he can wear with a suit that will last. He said the buttons break, you know, and the threads come undone and all this kind of thing. And it's just hard to find that. And so he tells about this one tailor that said, "Joel, have I got a deal for you? I've got," you know, and he comes up with this unbreakable buttons and ironclad stitching, lovely dress shirt. And Joel says, "And ever since, I order all of my dress shirts from them. And, you know, I wouldn't change for anything." And he goes on with his speech. And at the end of his speech, now he's got on a coat and tie. And at the end of his speech, he said, "So if you want," I'm paraphrasing, "if you want customers to be as loyal to you as I've been to this tailor over all these years, then create a product like he did, you know, one that lasts forever." And he takes off his jacket, and the shirt has perfect cuffs, perfect collar, perfect placard in the front, and absolutely shredded sleeves and body. It's all rags and yellow underarm, you know, I mean, it's hideous. And the audience went insane with laughter. I mean, wet yourself and fall on the floor laughter. It brought the house down. Wow. So I said to Joel afterwards, I said, I don't know how to respond to that. It was so good. And he said, "Well, you want to have lunch with me?" And I said, "Well, sure," because we were both members of NSA, National Speakers. So we went to a little neighborhood cafe so that we wouldn't have convention attendees messing with us during lunch. And we sat there and had a sandwich or something. And Joel asked me a question. He said, "What's your goal, Jim? What do you want to do?" I said, "I want to be a famous professional speaker like Earl Nightingale or Zig Ziglar or you, or, you know, the people that are hitting it out of the park." He said, "Do you want to be rich or do you want to be famous?" I said, "Well, both would be nice." He said, "Yeah, but if you had to rank them, which one first?" I said, "Famous, because I figure if I'm famous, I can get rich." He said, "Yeah, I would put them in the other sequence, but okay." And years later, Joel, financially secure, was less famous than me, and me, more famous, I was less financially secure than him. Point made, point taken. But that was ASTD. And there was an outfit that served ASTD and Meeting Professionals International, MPI, that was called Creative Meetings. And they would publish this magazine that had all kinds of great ideas on how to handle the things that come up with meetings, understanding your legal responsibilities for protecting attendees, things like that. The contracting relationship and so forth. But this publication, Creative Meetings, spring of '87, is the resource directory that includes all the top speakers bureaus, Harry Walker Agency, this one with people like Alexander Haig, Tip O'Neill, President Gerald Ford, Henry Kissinger, people like that. Whoa. And then you go over to some of these others, like this one is Washington Speakers Bureau. They've got George Will, Peter Jennings, Art Buchwald, Lou Holtz, Chris Wallace, Joe Theismann, Charlie Plum, my good friend, the former POW in Vietnam. And they've got others. So this whole thing is filled with speakers bureaus and ads and articles. So at this time, '87, I'm tight with Tony Alessandra, and we're no longer partners, but we're still collaborating. And so we go to the Creative Meetings people and we buy the back cover. That's me right there with glasses and dark hair. Sheila Murray Bethel, who was very well-established leadership speaker. A young Brian Tracy, who was a new guy out of Canada at the time, still living in Canada. And Bill Bethel, who was a sales trainer married to Sheila. We bought the back page of this magazine. Tony Alessandra, John Lee, Lane Longfellow, and I bought the back page of the member directory for Meeting Professionals International. We bought the inside front cover of the American Society for Association Executives member directory. And we booked ourselves for breakout sessions or general sessions at their annual meetings. And then we had a booth called CALL, us, Cathcart, Alessandra, Lee, and Longfellow. And we were each there on our respective days and had our materials we were handing out. Later, we bought a billboard next door on the wall, next door to the entrance to the Admirals Club at San Diego Airport. And we had our photos up there with brochures that people could pick up and take with them. We weren't in business together, but we were marketing together. And we were marketing to the meetings industry very specifically and very intentionally, for that matter. And we picked up bookings all over the world. I mean, it absolutely paid off. After the first go around on that ad next to the Admirals Club in the airport in San Diego, it was time to renew. And John Lee and Lane Longfellow dropped out. And it was Cathcart, Alessandra, Brian Tracy, Ken Blanchard, the 1 Minute Manager, and Scott McCain. And we had the ad, had a big billboard indoors next to that and on the Delta concourse as well. And so who sees that? Well, everybody. Yeah, but how many of them are your prospects? Only a few. But guess what? San Diego is one of the most popular meeting destinations on earth. So if the world's greatest meeting planners and association executives and the CEOs that are attending meetings and buying training go to San Diego, they walk off the plane and they're looking at us. So we've got credibility that way more than a big TED Talk would give you, right? But only for the people that travel to that area. But the other people, they say, I see you guys everywhere. No, they don't. They see us in San Diego Airport. They see us in the membership directory. They see us in creative meetings back cover. And that's it. We didn't do other advertising. So it was super, super targeted, industry specific, and it absolutely paid off. It was best expenditure any of us ever did. Feedback, comments?
That's brilliant. And the idea of targeting has been such an important thing in television. During my days of producing shows, the audience mattered. What we were doing in our 30 minutes, our 60-minute programs were targeted to just the audience. I did an RV travel show for 7 years for the RV Vehicles Association. I did fishing shows for Bassmasters and Skeeter Bass Champs. I did music shows for record companies out of Nashville, and it was always targeted to that viewer and the peripheral magazines and advertising outlets relative to that particular group. Some of that was to leadership, some of that was to actual viewers, but it absolutely paid off. It absolutely. Now, everybody can advertise and everybody can reach an audience. And even though we can get real nichey, it's overdone. It's so saturated. Before it wasn't. I mean, you were the only guys that were in the airport that were doing that on those two magazines. It's like, wow, you are everywhere.
Yeah.
It's harder to do that today, even though it's easier to do, if that makes sense.
It is easier in a sense. And back then, you were kind of A-list if you had a brochure, especially if it was in more than one color.
Yeah.
I mean, this was so primitive compared to today. You know, the black and white brochure that you fold and put in a suit jacket pocket, that was the industry standard. In fact, I won the National Speakers Association brochure contest in the year 1980 with an orange and black and white brochure that I had produced. And I remember Don Hudson was the guy who presented the award to me, but NSA used to have a brochure contest because brochures were a big deal, you know. And now, today, here's how to use that thinking today. We knew that if we went dollar for dollar, heads up against all these speakers bureaus, all these top name speakers, all these publishing houses that were willing to put money behind their personalities, you know, like a J.K. Rowling or somebody today that, you know, Harry Potter series. The publisher would come up with the money and put it behind them because they know it's going to sell. Well, we were nobody. So what could we do, right? We were good. We knew what we were doing and we could deliver, but we were nobody as far as the world was concerned. And so we sat and collaborated. Where are the most visible opportunities that cost almost nothing? Well, first off, the most visible opportunity that costs nothing is the one that pays you. Let's contact their meeting planners and see if we can get booked on the program for pay or for expenses at least, right? Well, that didn't work often, but it did occasionally. Because when you go to the state associations, you know, like the Missouri Realtors Association, they were paying speakers to come in. So we got those exposures a lot. And we did lots and lots of associations. And that, of course, built credibility for the national program. And so National Association of Realtors would say, Jim Cathcart, he spoke for Missouri, he spoke for Oklahoma, he spoke for, and they, you know, Georgia, and they'd name off all these state associations where I'd been a keynoter and gone over well. Well, if we can get him to do a different topic, then he'd be a good choice for the annual meeting. If not, he's kind of already exposed. So I had a different treatment of my material that I could propose for the national stage than what I had for the states. Although I could do the other topic for the states, it wasn't tailored that way. And that got me some big platforms. At Oklahoma Bankers Association, I did a little seminar for the women's division for, I don't know, $200. And it went over well. And I leveraged that over the next 2 or 3 years into 27 other bookings only in Oklahoma.
Wow.
Only in Oklahoma Bankers Association. And during that time, I said, hey, you've got a magazine coming out every month. Could I do a column for one of your magazines? Yeah. So I did a column. They said, hey, we like that. Would you be interested in doing one every month? I think I would. So I did. And my articles were always, the column was always an article on something I spoke on. And at the end of it, of course, was a little how to contact Jim. And Jim is a speaker. Here's how to contact Jim. So I got a call one day, a couple of years into it, from the American Bankers Association, Washington, D.C.'s headquarters. Jim, we do a case study training program for new bank presidents every year. And it's a 3 or 4 day event, and we hold it in Colonial Williamsburg, Virginia. And we bring in all these newly installed bank presidents, and we present them this huge, thick case study at the start. And it's a bank, a community, you know, it's a sample scenario of a real world situation with all the real world problems that bank presidents will have to deal with. And we work with them with a team of experts for the entire week and teach them how to deal with all these things. Would you be interested in doing the human management portion of that and sales and marketing? Yes. So I ended up on the executive faculty of the American Bankers Association for 6 years as a result of doing a quick little freebie speech almost for the women's division of the Oklahoma Bankers.
Wow.
Just like that. And that led to international bookings. Now, I realized in 1990 that I needed to stop spending so much time designing marketing campaigns and licking stamps and putting together mailings and doing all the grunt work of marketing. And so I decided I was going to go around to all the speakers bureaus and speak to as many of them as I could. There were maybe 50 actual bureaus, others that called themselves one that weren't, but 50 actual bureaus that were actually money-making enterprises, and only 25 of those that were worth spending any time bothering with, because the others either specialized on types of industries or types of people or whatever. So anyway, I did that. And I spent 1990, 91, and part of 92 going around the country, speaking at bureaus to their staff on how to market speakers more effectively. And they said, Jim, give us a sample of what you do. And so I would do that. And then I redesigned all of my materials to fit with their files and their displays and their marketing systems. And I created the Agent's Handbook for bureaus. And in it had all the details that a bureau would ever ask about. So it's got all my contact information up front. It's got a table of contents. Here's what I'll do when I speak for you. That's my service commitment, what I will and won't do before, during, and after the speech. Here's a data sheet with everything you can imagine about me: fees, policy on product sales, travel policy, audiovisual needs, professional credentials, who's my marketing director, what's my federal tax ID, what are our hours. Here's some of my brochures from back in the day. You know, this shows my topics, client testimonials. Does Jim speak on, this is Q&A, frequently asked questions. Does Jim speak on change, teamwork, service, empowerment, quality, diversity, leadership, sales? And I actually gave him a 1-paragraph script answer for each of these. In some cases, the answer is no, but in many cases, yes. And then I gave him my fee schedule with details, and then a list of all my clients. And I had a bunch of clients, 3,500 today, but this is repeat and multiple clients, all of those. And then clients by year, starting in 1999. I didn't go all the way back to 70s. And there's 99, there's 98. 97. And you can see I was doing a lot of speaking for a lot of industries, client testimonials from 91 to 99. And I've got them selected carefully by mix of industry and level of credibility and type of praise. Okay. And then back to another brochure with my products. And then a copy of one of my newsletters. And then my pre-programmed questionnaire, which you used to do back in the day, and that was a big deal. And then a sample contract, an introduction for the guy that or gal that's telling them who I am, and then a script of selling points for the agent at the bureau. Describe Jim's speaking style. What are the qualifications? Didn't he speak only on personality types? Because for a while I did. Isn't he partners with somebody else? And then here's all the selling points, page after page. I mean, I use this to train my staff. And this is only financial services, banking, and insurance. This is only banking itself. This is only healthcare and medical. This is only technology and information services, real estate, hotel and hospitality. One of my articles, one of my product breakdowns, an article on how to get the most out of your speaker if you're the one bringing in the speaker, an order form, and a press photo from the day. Feature I did in Investors Business Daily, feature I did in Futures Magazine, and that's it. Phew! Now that was a great training manual for my own staff. I don't know of any agent or bureau that ever used it, but I took by hand a copy of this to every one of them. Now this is exactly the size that will fit in a file cabinet without obscuring the other files.
Yeah.
You can still see the little tabs of the other files over the ridge of this. But when you look in the drawer, that's what you see. And when you look at it sideways, that's what you see. So it fit well. Now, the problem was when one of these went out of date, and I had a new page to send, I would send it to them thinking they'll take the old one out and put the new one in. No, they just stuffed it in a file folder with it. So they never updated them. So if I was going to have an updated agent handbook, I had to go to the bureaus. So I oversolved the problem, right? Big time oversolved it. But then somebody said there's a concept or a technique or a technology called Mosaic. And it has made possible the civilian use of the military ARPANET, and they call it the World Wide Web, the internet. And people are putting a web page on the internet. And I said, well, can I get more than one page? And they said, yeah. And I said, here. And I had that entire handbook put into my website. And I was one of the first speakers in the world to have a complete, robust website instead of a web page. Because everybody else's page was like a billboard, and mine was like a library book or a phone directory. So,
we talked about this one time before, and I love what you just showed. I worked inside my office. My production office was inside the International Speakers Bureau for a few years. And at the time, this was
on Deep Ellum.
In Deep Ellum, early 2000s. And at the time, the bureaus represented thousands of people.
Yeah.
But there was only a small amount, maybe under 100 people that really got a lot of bookings, but they had access to them. And to your point, Jim, their agents did not know and hardly anything, certainly not enough, about an individual speaker. And the materials that the speakers were submitting at that point in time was very thin, very, very thin. Yours was a massive amount of information, but very, very valuable. And had somebody spent the time to go through that, it'd have been a huge win for them to know this about you and share it with so many clients, but most people did not. And the same thing also applied to the videos. Videos were a full hour, they were a full speech. And
Right.
yet these committees that were meeting for the companies, a bureau would send 5 speakers, and they'd spend like 4 or 5 different videos of a speaker slot available. So they got 20 videos to watch, and they're like an hour long. Well, I come along and started doing these sizzle reels, if you will, and 3 minutes of video sizzle stuff, and maybe a totality of 7 to 10 minutes. And it began to explode. Those speakers that had those were the ones that were getting so many great bookings. And I had a meeting with Michelle Lemons at the time, who was the president of the company, said, why don't we reach out to all your speakers and encourage them to go through and let us produce a new demo video for them and put this collateral material like you've just presented for the agents to be able to access? Because the moments that they have in front of a client are very small. And if you don't narrow that down and get to the heart of the message, you're going to lose your opportunity. Well, that has been magnified 500 times nowadays.
Now they're
to
looking
where
at
we are.
1 minute sizzle reel.
Yeah, which is crazy.
Yep.
But man, you were ahead of the game, dude. You were way ahead of the game.
Yeah,
and
I
you were
was-
right.
And what I ended up doing, now I realized my error, and by staying in touch with the bureaus, I realized what was going on. And so I said, I want you to keep this on hand, and I will come by occasionally or send somebody by, and we will go into your file and update my agent's handbook. But I don't want anybody to bother studying the agent's handbook unless they get someone on the line to talk about me. Then get me on the phone and I'll talk with you. Let's say, Robin, you're the agent. So you call and you say, Jim, we've got you on the short list for a meeting in Houston on May the 5th. It's a builders association, and I wanted to talk to you about that. And I said, okay, grab the agent's handbook. Oh, but I just want, I know, grab the agent's handbook. Okay, got it. Good. Open to page 17. Okay. You see all those people in the building trades that I have listed there as former clients? Oh, this will be really helpful.
No,
yeah.
they had no clue.
Right.
Really,
And
they
I said,
didn't.
now then flip over 2 more pages. There's frequently asked questions. And they're going to ask you this one, and this one. So there are your answers. Oh my God, this is golden. Man, I wish every speaker would do that. No, she didn't. But still, that it just made it that much better. And I was partners in problem solving with the agent instead of just talent.
Yeah.
Who's sitting there hoping to be marketed and guessing at what the answers would be that the agent would need. Lisa Marie, I see your hand up and I'll get to you in a second. When I did this and I realized the error of my ways, I went back and created a very simple, quick thing for the bureaus. And also I took my speaker's demo tape, which was the sizzle reel back then, which was on VHS cassette. And I had been in the bureaus and I knew how they kept their files. So I looked up on the wall and I saw all these sizzle reels sitting up there like books on a library shelf. And all you can read is the spine, of course. And I realized how similar most of them looked. And some of them were really elegant and beautiful, but you couldn't tell what they said from afar. So you had to go up there and say, okay, Robin Kriesman. Oh, there he is. Oh, what a beautiful, elegant script. And how nicely prepared this is. Well, you don't care what the package looks like for your video. You care what the experience of watching it is like, right? And if you're the speaker, you want the most obnoxious spine on the entire shelf. So I did. Neon orange with a great big bold Jim Cathcart in block letters on it, or script, but easy to read. And sure enough, when they looked up every day, they noticed mine, whether they felt like it or not.
Mine had the Rockstar speaker down the spine
Yeah,
in red.
there you go. Because you gotta find out what is the existing system. Where do their eyes go? How can you make yourself an unavoidable daily experience for them?
Yeah.
So that's what I was doing. And then I went one step further, and no other speaker I know has ever done this. I wrote a training manual for speakers agents. Not for me.
So needed.
It's called 10 Vital Skills or Vital Questions for agents and bureaus. And that was, why does the speaker need to fly first class if he or she does? Why is it so important for everyone to get a book? Is this fee negotiable? Can we get an extra presentation out of the speaker while he or she is there? What do you do when the client's budget doesn't match your fee? How do you avoid just discounting until they get a yes, which is not selling, it's capitulation? Where do you find extra training dollars or whatever? All kinds of things like that.
That's good.
And so I wrote that manual, which I put, by the way, in the files on our Facebook page for this group. So everyone here can download that file for free. But it's 10 Vital Questions for Agents and Bureaus. And so I sent that out. I printed it up, and it cost me, like $5 each to print these things. And I sent out a couple of them to all the major bureaus. And the bureau principals, the owners, called me and said, hey, can I get 10 more copies of this? So they were going to give one to each of their agents, but they weren't going to do it until they were sure that this was not just a sneaky way of Jim promoting Jim. So I actually had to make it what it said it was instead of making it a sneaky ad for me.
Bureau friendly.
Yes. And in doing so, it became a sneaky ad for me anyway.
Yeah.
Because they said, nobody's a pro like Cathcart. Nobody takes this profession seriously and does what he can to uplift all boats without necessarily getting anything personally out of it, like Jim does. And so that has served me well. And I need to get some of that back into the minds and hearts of the bureaus to stimulate more engagements now. So Lisa Marie, sorry to keep you waiting so long. If you're still available.
No, I'm here. Let me lower my hand. And I still want to ask my question, but my mind has circled a couple of times since then, because I think it is so very important, because marketing is my background, to market yourself properly. And the majority of my experience has been marketing products and programs and not myself.
Right.
And you know well that I had a huge hurdle to get over in learning how to market myself. But last fall, I had a mentor say to me, and I appreciated it greatly. I had just invested in a YouTube, because everybody was saying, you need a YouTube page, you need this, you need that. And I think I let myself get so carried away with trying to get the right brochure, the right business card, the right website, $3,500 on a website, and the YouTube. And he said to me, Lisa, just stop it. You get out there and just be Lisa. Don't hide behind your brochure. Don't hide behind this. You just get out there and let them know who you are. You are good. Your material is good, and it'll take off. And I was in the process of 2 big proposals that I've recently had a little hiccup with. So it's challenging to know the right brochure, the website, the YouTube. And it was a struggle for me. But at the end of the year, when I was doing my next year and the next 3 years, I had to say, stop. I have to go with what I have, be proud of it, and move forward, because I think he was giving me some really good advice. And I'm going to just selfishly ask the question, since it's kind of come full circle. You've worked with me now for several years on my training business. Robin, you know my website. Jay, you may or may not. What are your thoughts on my material and and how I market myself?
Others? Robin, Jay, you want to offer input?
I'll say something generically for all of us, quite honestly. We all need to update probably every 18 months, if not more. But here's I'm with you, Lisa. I agree. And Jim, you may have seen this. Scott McCain, one of our close friends, had something on LinkedIn the other day about kind of challenging a lot of the people out about speakers, how much marketing they have to do, how much silly, not silly, but just the little things that get out there to get a booking. And he says those that are real professionals, they get bookings because they're great on stage. They have the necessary tools that they need, and they look 100% professional, top end. But they don't overdo it all the time. A lot of people are particularly young speakers that are coming up, and we've all kind of been in this world for a while. They make it sound so easy to get a booking. And if you're not getting a booking after having been booked, it's not your marketing, it's your speaking capabilities. It's your presentation skills. You're not good on stage. I did a course during COVID called Rock Your Keynote to Book More Gigs. The whole point is, if you don't kill it on stage and get people after you walk off the stage asking you to be booked for more, then you got a speaking problem. You don't have a marketing problem. And so, Lisa, you're very good at what you do. Your collateral material probably could take a leap up a little bit, a bump up, as well as mine. Jim, you're the same way. Yeah. And here's the point I mentioned earlier about what has changed in the dynamics of the last number of years over tons of information. The succinctnness of the material, just enough to move the needle, to get the interest, to be able to go and watch your video. Your video, all of our videos, which mine needs to be completely redone, is really the calling card. Yeah. You can have stuff in print, you can have great pics, but what they see you do on stage is key. Number one, the very first impression matters. Is it a big stage? Am I promoting myself as a big speaker who does big events? Then that's got to represent that. Mm-hmm. I may have the ability to be great on stage, but if I'm in a small room with an exit sign over my head with the doors behind me in the meeting room, probably not going to get the attention of that meeting planner who's booking the big event, whether we're good at and able to do that or not. So there's parts of the marketing and the imaging that has to really stand out to capture their attention. The succinctness more and more that we have to take all the wealth of what we've done and narrow it down to the things that are going to move the needle today in today's market, competing with the people that are out there in our industry and our niche. And right now, for Jim and I at least, we're on that upper age group, and we've got a lot of people that are coming in underneath us that they're pretty rocking it. They're kind of doing the thing and then they're height of the market. So how we position ourselves and then the collateral material that we have representing us doesn't need to be a lot. And no, you don't have to have a buttload of videos on YouTube, but you've got to have a few that are really good and intentional to the point of what you want them to achieve for you. If it's intentional about just generally, hey, I'm great at what I do, I've got a huge career, or I'm going to be the best speaker for your convention when you're doing your gift selling, or whether you're doing with Mary Kay, or whether you're doing with Zig, or whatever it might be in any industry, whether it's sales, customer service, leadership. If you can nail that target audience and you deliver exactly what they want, that's when you get a great situation. NSA Austin, Jim, you'll know this. I just got the email yesterday. Courtney Clark. Do y'all know who Courtney Clark is?
Yes.
You know her.
Yes.
Randy and I know her. Pennington. Courtney was going to go with us to Greenville, Jim, to do our shoot up there. And we may go back at some other time. But she's coming to speak in May for NSA Austin. And tell me if this doesn't get your attention. The title of her presentation is How I Booked My First 100 Speaking Gigs. There's no one right way to build a speaking business, but one thing we all can agree on is that to build a speaking business, you need business. Where did those first speaking engagements come from? Courtney Clark, CSP, will share with you her strategy for going from who do I even call and what do I say to a fully booked calendar. At the end of the session, get this now, participants will leave with ideas for where to look for people who might hire you. Courtney's step-by-step sales plan detailing what types of outreach to send and when. Script suggestions for calls and emails, including, wait for it, the best single word to start your voicemails. And a strategy for turning your first handful of bookings into spin-off business.
Mhm.
All right, if you're a speaker and you're trying to get gigs, are you going to go to that presentation?
Absolutely.
I'm gonna go.
1,000%.
Yeah.
1,000%. The clarity, now that's not what she speaks on out in her general market
Mm-mm.
programs,
Yeah.
but knowing the niche of your audience, and this right now is obviously speakers, and delivering exactly what you know that every speaker wants to know, you're going to get a full house and you're going to get booked time and time again. I will not be surprised if she doesn't go to 25 chapters and delivers that.
And
I
I
did
would,
the same thing with what can a speaker learn from a rock star back in my heyday. And that's what we did at National on the main stage with the rock star panels. What can speakers learn from rock stars? Well, I don't know,
Robin,
but I
that's
want to be
great.
there to know something. I don't want to miss that.
yeah.
You know?
Robin, that is great. I mean, I totally appreciate everything that you said, and I hear you. It's really interesting because I know that back last spring I had four different churches. Two were in the Catholic community and two were not, asked me to come and give my legacy talk. It's a 45-minute, and I call it a keynote now. It has just been my most popular talk.
Yeah.
And they said, you need to start going to more churches. So what do I do? Last summer, I dropped $1,000 and did a church bulletin ad that will run for a full year. But I'm trying to stop being reactive and just try to go with what he was telling me that, hey, and Robin, here's another thing. I'm not just looking to think big or big audiences. I'm just looking to add value. And because I have so much experience in corporate America and a marketing degree and sales experience and communication experience, I am looking to get into companies and organizations. So I didn't want to take it as a negative that somebody said, hey, you need to go to more churches because they don't pay as well as companies do. But I don't know. I think sometimes so much is coming at me and I'm trying to juggle a whole lot. But I appreciate what you said. I'd love to have some more information on Courtney. And
Well,
the
that was
way to
just an
find
example.
out
That just
about
came
that is
in
go
the
to
email
NSA
this week.
Go to
Excuse me,
NSA
Tim?
Austin on the NSA website and just click through on their upcoming programs. And the other is to go to Courtney Clark and see if she's got a link that goes through. Because you can go
Okay.
virtually, I'm sure.
Hey,
Okay.
Lisa,
Yes.
let me say one thing to you real quick.
Sure.
Jim would agree with this, and John Mitchell would agree with this because I heard it both from them as well as others. But right now, and I'm kind of in the same boat. I've been on the big stages, I've been international. I'm not necessarily looking to do all of that again, but I do want to be more niche in the market and probably more local and regional just because of my wife's situation and others.
Uh-huh.
But one thing that I'm doing right now, and I would suggest you do as well. Number one, find out what exactly that is the buzz of your life that you really enjoy the most. Is that like your legacy talk possibly? Or
Yeah.
the knowledge that you have with all your other industries and examples in corporate? What's the one thing that if you could pick, I want to do this every day of my life, what would it be?
Okay.
Number two,
I got it. I got it. Yeah, my heart. I got it. I got two actually, but yes.
who would be the audience for that? Where are they? Are they in corporate? Are they in churches? Are they in nonprofit organizations? Whatever.
Yeah.
Got to get the answer to that. Number three, would they pay for something like this? Churches may or may not, maybe get an honorarium
Yeah.
versus a fee, but would they pay for this? And then how do I find them? And once you can nail those, and Jim, you had something in one of your LinkedIn posts the other day. I've got a chart that I use the similar way. You've got the three circles and you got the inner circles like that. When
Yeah.
you're right in the middle of the heart
Yeah.
of those pieces,
Mm-hmm.
that's your place. At least if you can nail that place with where do I find those people? Who are they? Will they pay? Then that's where I'm going to focus my time and attention. And that's where I'm going to make sure that I do all of my marketing, all of my visuals, all of my copywriting all my videos and everything for that particular person. And when you become that person, just like this situation with Courtney, Courtney's broader than this. Lisa's broader than this. Robin and Jim are broader than this. Jay's broader than this. But if we find something that really is our heart and soul, and that's what you focus on, that's when you're going to really grow fast. That's
Excellent.
my opinion.
Thank you, Robin. That's actually, it's not the version Jim posted, but there's another version, and it has what makes your heart sing. And I do have on that. It is all about, for me, my communication workshop that I've given to Herbalife. I've given to 3 major companies and the Catholic Diocese. So that is my number 1. But my number 2, it's a close number 1, is my volunteer work and my legacy talk on the 2 men who've most inspired my life,
Good.
Danny Thomas and Zig Ziglar. So thank you, Robin. I appreciate it.
Lisa, let me interrupt in this, acknowledging the time, because I want to bring that together for you and then move forward. Winning ways is the term that you've been using as your brand identity. And it fits perfectly with your legacy talk. It fits perfectly with your other. And I would, if I were you, I would be using that term all the time. I would say, I'm thinking out loud, so don't take this as a prescription. I'm just thinking out loud to get the idea out there. Ladies, and gentlemen, one of the things I want to share with you today is 2 people who have made a profound impact on the world and certainly on my life. They both are exceptional examples of winning ways of living your life, running your business, and building your relationships. And then you launch right into your message. But I would keep coming back to winning ways, winning ways, winning ways, winning ways, because that is a brand that's memorable and it's unique to you. And it's already in place, and you've got the positioning, the packaging, the colors and all that. So just that's a winning way. And how do you connect with different types of people? Well, there are ways and there are winning ways. I'm going to teach you the ones that work. I call these winning ways because they've been proven over time by millions of people. And here, there are 4 basic personality profiles or types, and blah, 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 blah. And the ways to connect with them are these. And then everything becomes a summary of the winning way to do this, the winning ways to do that, the winning, and all that. So it clarifies everything so much more crisply. What I wanted to do today is I wanted to give you the historical context and show you how I had oversolved many of the problems I thought I had. And the over solution was no solution, but it contained within it the solutions I needed. So within that big old thing that I produced was a whole robust website and an online office. I mean, that had everything I needed to train my own staff. When I wrote the handbook on how to handle 10 vital questions, for bureaus and agents, well, I could give that to my own staff and tell them, when you're talking to a bureau, here's how they think, and here's what they've got to do. And we've got to remind them of these things because they forget. They just get in the job of sending out links to sizzle reels and think that's going to do the selling instead. But when these other questions come up, they go, and then they want to go back to their company training manual, which is digital, and they can't get off of this screen to get access to the other screen, when all they had to do on mine is flip it open to that 4th page, and there it is scripted for them. So all of these things have multiple uses. And you say, yeah, but I don't want to do all that work. Well, don't. I didn't do all that work in 1 week, 1 year, 1 month, 1 decade. That represents decades of work. And I just layered it. I do this one. And, like, how did you get all those financial industry clients? By booking the first one. And then the next one, that 300 times. And how did you get all those in bank? And, I told you about banking. So one at a time, keep notes, keep the golden thread going all the way from the start, whether it's become the person who and be a true professional, or whether it's winning ways, or whether it's rock star, or whatever. You take that common thread and pull it all the way through. And also when you look at, limited amount of marketing energy, dollars, or resources, where do you put it? Go where the horses go to drink. If you want to appeal to horses, go where they're going to go anyway. Don't try to draw them somewhere else. So, the old line is you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. And then someone did a hilarious spin on that. They said you can lead a horse to drink, but you can't make him water. Think about it. Anyway, ride the horse in the direction it's going. Go to the places the people that you're looking for are going to be, like in the airport in San Diego. When they get off their plane, the first thing they see, if you can get that inexpensively. And by the way, we did it as a group so that none of us had to pay more than $1,000. And it was up there for a year or 2 years, right? So very inexpensive advertising in a highly visible, high impact place. But if someone had said, hey, downtown Memphis, I'll give you the most prominent billboard in town for $40 a month, that would probably be a waste of my money. I'd have to spend a couple thousand preparing the thing to put on the billboard, and then I'd have to spend $40 a month, and it wouldn't be seen by the people I'm going after. So, that's like putting ads in the yellow pages in the old days. If the people you were looking for didn't go to the yellow pages for people like you, that was a complete waste of time and money. But if they did, there was no better place to be, because the other speakers weren't in there, or at least not as a speaker, right? So think, how can I just show up in their path they're following anyway? Like if I know they are a University of Texas fan and they're going to the football game, where's the gathering where everybody meets before they caravan down to the stadium? I don't want to go to the stadium and buy booth space or try to work the crowd when they're all distracted. I want to go sponsor the reception at the country club before the carpool. Now we're getting somewhere. And I've spent 1/10 of what I would have spent otherwise, right? There you go. That's your wisdom for the day. And Jay, are you in a position to pop in here and say hi to us?
Hi, Jim.
Hey, Jay.
Hey, Jay.
Hi, guys.
Nice to hear
Hey,
you.
Jay.
Yeah, I would normally pop on. I actually had skin cancer surgery yesterday, so my face is kind of bandaged up like Frankenstein, and I had a hyperbaric treatment today, which is very good for healing. And I told him, I said, listen, I got to get out of here. I have to get on my mentorship call. So I've been listening to you all the way on my car. It's been great. Robin had some great stuff to say. This whole group is really inspirational, and I feel like healing is a lot of physical stuff, but it's also mental and spiritual. And this is great stuff to be involved in if you want to heal physically or spiritually. So thank you, Jim.
Thank you for that.
Awesome.
I appreciate
Awesome.
it. Well, by
Thanks,
the way,
Jay.
quick update to everybody. I've been planning like crazy on La Jolla, and I've had some recent news, new people signing up, both on the faculty side and on the paid student side. Joe Willard, my #1 mentor from life, and the one who I took to China with me a couple of years ago and brought him up on stage and all that. The one who hired me when I was a rosy-cheeked young speaker and helped me get into the financial services industry, Joe's coming, and he'll be there the whole time. And that's awesome. So you're going to have a self-made multimillionaire that owns a 1,000-acre ranch in Oklahoma and is an investor now more than anything else, sitting in the room giving advice for the folks who are there. Also, Dr. Anthony Criniti He calls himself Dr. Finance. He's from Philadelphia, and he has a big online following. And it was one of the top 3 people on Clubhouse when Clubhouse was in its heyday a year or so ago. He's going to be there. He signed up. Eric Swanson, Mr. Awesome, he calls himself. This guy does everything under the sun. He's got so many followers, and he's just an explosion of energy. But he's going to be there and joining with us and receiving the CP. He'll be a certified professional expert. So will Anthony Cornetti. Brian Tracy, I told you, is going to be there. Tony Alessandro is going to be there. John Lynn, who is the owner of a Hollywood studio, a major studio, and has built 5 hospitals recently. And he went to China with me on the January trip. He'll be there. Greg Boyson, who has done 1,100 podcasts and has a very large following, mostly among the financial services industry. He will be there and talking about podcasts and such. Daniel Pope of Be Known Agency out of Tennessee, online marketing expert that you've met, some of you. He's going to come in by video Zoom call on the final day, the 8th, and talk about systems that we have to put in place to sustain profitability. And then Victor Antonio, my co-author of the 2024 edition of Relationship Selling. He is a big deal in AI and sales training and a major big platform professional speaker. He will be coming in on Tuesday by video Zoom. And let's see, gosh, that's enough. You know, the dinner is going to be a very, very special dinner on Tuesday night. And that's the latest on that front. And I'm still looking for 2 more people. So if you've got anybody, please send them to me.
Okay.
Okay.
Good stuff, buddy. Good stuff.
Have a
Great.
good
Thank y'all
weekend.
so much. Y'all all have a good weekend. I appreciate it.
You too. Take
Bye,
care.
y'all. See you, Lisa. See you, Jay. See you,
Thank
Joe.
you,
Good,
Robin.
guys. Good seeing you all.
Thank
You
you.
too.
Have a
Yes.
good weekend.
Bye.